Astăzi, dacă ajungi la Gdańsk, cu greu îți poți imagina ce a însemnat acest loc în anii 80. Orașul e viu, colorat, turistic, iar trecutul pare pierdut printre cafenele cochete și vitrine moderne. Și totuși, dacă te oprești în fața Șantierului Naval, acolo unde totul a început, sau intri în muzeul impresionant dedicat Mișcării Solidaritatea, simți că istoria nu a plecat nicăieri. Ea s-a păstrat vie în memoria locuitorilor orașului, în fotografii și pe peliculă. Era o vreme în care Polonia se zbătea între criza economică și speranța de schimbare. În mijlocul acestor tensiuni, un om simplu, electrician, Lech Wałęsa, devenea simbolul luptei pentru libertate. Solidaritatea nu era doar un sindicat, era vocea unei națiuni. În februarie 1989, regimul condus de generalul Wojciech Jaruzelski acceptă în cele din urmă dialogul. Se deschide Masa Rotundă, un format de negocieri fără precedent între putere și opoziție. Timp de 2 luni, la Varșovia, s-a discutat despre viitorul unei țări cu calm, cu teamă, dar cu hotărâre. Nu mai era cale de întoarcere. Polonezii spuneau lumii întregi ceea ce le spusese lor Papa Ioan Paul al II-lea în 1979. Nu vă fie frică. Acordul din 5 aprilie 1989 avea să schimbe tot. Sindicate libere, alegeri democratice, sfârșitul puterii absolute a Partidului Comunist. Iar la urne, în iunie, Solidaritatea obținea o victorie covârșitoare. Era începutul sfârșitului pentru vechiul regim. În mai puțin de un an, Lech Wałęsa devine primul președinte ales democratic al Poloniei. Gdańskul de azi nu strigă, nu flutură pancarte, dar dacă știi unde să privești, descoperi urmele unei victorii pașnice care a inspirat o lume întreagă.
Ja jestem córką dziennikarza. W związku z tym i osoby, która, i rzeczywiście mój tata był zaangażowany w podziemną solidarność, tak naprawdę zarówno w pracę na rzecz rzeczywiście podziemnych wydawnictw, i też podziemnych gazet. Przede wszystkim był w sierpniu 80 roku tutaj w Stoczni Gdańskiej. Jest jednym z głównych redaktorów oświadczenia dziennikarzy polskich zgromadzonych w Stoczni Gdańskiej. Później sobie spojrzymy na to oświadczenie na wystawie stałej. Więc oczywiście Solidarność, oczywiście podziemie, czy rzeczywiście opozycja demokratyczna była w naszym domu obecna. Tata był zaangażowany, był wykładowcą, był opozycjonistą, bardzo dużo oczywiście było też pracy ze słowem, z ludźmi, etc. Mama była tą, która przy tym wszystkim pracowała, zajmowała się domem. Kiedy trzeba, bo mama też straciła pracę ze względu na wsparcie dla Solidarności, ale bardzo szybko ją odzyskała, bo była tą osobą, która zawiadowała, de facto była dyrektorem zarządzającym całej rzeczywistości. I do tego też trochę wracamy. Znaczy Zbigniew Janas mówi o tym, że jeżeli przytoczył takie opowiadanie, że jeżeli spojrzelibyśmy na scenę, to tam stoją liderzy Solidarności, ale jak odwrócimy kamerę, to tam stoją te kobiety, na których barkach tak naprawdę ci liderzy stali. Te mikroświaty, które występowały w Polsce, one były bardzo wymieszane. Czyli na przykład ja byłam w rodzinie, w której starsi bracia mojego taty, jeden był oficerem wojsk lądowych, drugi był oficerem marynarki i wszyscy spotykali się co tydzień na tym samym obiedzie przy jednym stole. Więc to też było tak, że to życie takie toczyło się normalnie. Choć na swój sposób, jeszcze tylko 2 rzeczy, choć na swój sposób z dzisiejszej perspektywy, no, ja uważam, że było życiem uprzywilejowanym, bo przez dom, chociażby mój dom, przewijali się rzeczywiście dziennikarze, przewijali się twórcy dziennikarskiego podziemia, przewijały się osoby, które później tworzyły wolną Polskę. Jedną z nich oczywiście był mój tata, ale które później czynnie wchodziły w życie polityczne naszego kraju. I też myślę, że to nie jest przypadek, że spotykamy się w ECS-ie i akurat rozmawiamy, bo to też była taka wyjątkowa formacja, czyli dostęp do wiedzy, możliwość poznania ludzi, możliwość bycia w bardzo ciekawym miejscu i czasie, ale też pewna świadomość tego, co się dzieje. Czyli ja pamiętam moich rodziców, kiedy było zaprzysiężenie Tadeusza Mazowieckiego, bo to był moment, w którym po prostu zostałam zawołana. Myślę, że kluczem jest też to, co zawarła Pani w pytaniu, czyli fakt, czyli określenie historia. My oczywiście w Europejskim Centrum Solidarności spotykamy się i z osobami urodzonymi po roku 2000. Teraz już przychodzą do nas na staże osoby, które nawet urodziły się w roku 2004, co już jest dla nas chwilami też zdumiewające. I kluczem jest właśnie powiedzenie, że to jest historia, to znaczy myślę, że to jest też coś, od czego wychodzimy w rozmowie często, że dla naszych odbiorców z tej młodszej, bo nie najmłodszej, ale jednak jednej z najmłodszych grup docelowych, czy przychodzą oni do Muzeum II Wojny Światowej, czy przychodzą do Europejskiego Centrum Solidarności, to jest jednak dalej okres historyczny. Wyjątkowością ECS-u jest to, że jeszcze można do tej historii sięgnąć, bo są dziadkowie, są rodzice, jeśli tę historię pamiętają, ale jednak jest to już mówienie o postaciach, które jeżeli się kojarzy, to raczej ze współczesności. We are at the ECS, at the European Solidarity Center permanent exhibition. Actually, we are meeting it's almost the beginning of August, and we will be celebrating our 10th anniversary of being here in this building and opening this exhibition. So the ECS permanent exhibition is dedicated to the history of solidarity. It was August 1980 when the huge strike, the one that you can see over there, started here. It was the 14th of August, and the shipyard at that time was one of the biggest companies, not only on the Baltic coast but also in Poland. It was a city within a city. On the ceiling, this is the installation Hard Hearts that represents the community of the shipyard workers that decided to start the strike and to be on strike. There were 3 young shipyard workers, Ludwik Prądzyński, Bogdan Felski and Jerzy Borowczak, and there was of course Lech Wałęsa. And as the strike started, Lech Wałęsa is actually represented by this electric trolley that you can see over there. And do you know why the trolley? Because Wałęsa was an electrician by occupation, and when he worked in the shipyard, he actually maintained said trolley. This is the Mona Lisa of our exhibition. Those are the original tables of 21 demands. They were included into UNESCO Memory of the World Heritage List in 2003. And why they are on the UNESCO list? Because if you look at those demands, you can see that actually what the workers were fighting for, the shipyard workers, but not only, because those demands are signed by the interfactory striking committee. So it means that those are the representatives of the different companies that decided to come to the shipyard and join the strike. You can see that what they actually fought for was human rights, were human rights or civil rights. The journalists. What also made the strike successful was the fact that amongst those who went to the shipyard, and there were many of them, there were of course the representatives of the companies, there were workers, but there were also artists, there were people of culture, there were also journalists. And one of the first journalists that came to the shipyard was actually the American journalist, the correspondent of the Washington Post, who came from Warsaw to see what is happening in Gdańsk. And on the 25th of August, the journalists that were gathered here in the shipyard decided to make an announcement. And this announcement, you can see actually the edited version of this announcement. And the first sentence says, "We, the Polish journalists, gathered here during the strike in the Gdańsk shipyard, announced that many informations that were published so far, and above all, the way that they were commented on, do not reflect what has actually happened here." And this logo became one of the most important and one of the most known logos of the world. Solidarność. The logo of Solidarność was created by Jerzy Janiszewski. He was a young artist from the Academy of Fine Arts here in Gdańsk. He came to the shipyard, as I've told you, as many people of culture and many artists that came, and he said, one of the words that I've heard the most when I was here was actually Solidarność, solidarity. And that's why I decided to create the logo. So he created the logo that represents people coming together in one direction. And as you can see, the flag is also pointing that this is the right direction. On September and October 1981, the first Congress of the Solidarity delegates take place here in Gdańsk. Almost 900 delegates come and actually elect Lech Wałęsa in a democratic election for a leader of Solidarity. They also, during the Congress, they also create two important documents. The first one was Self-Governing Republic, which was actually the new program for Poland, political program for Poland. But the document that we are really proud of and we really want to talk about on our exhibition is actually a message to the working people of Eastern Europe. That was something. That is actually the message that says, as the first independent trade union in our post-war history, we are deeply aware of the commonality of our fate. We believe that your representatives and ours will soon be able to meet with the aim of exchanging trade union experiences. That was something that was actually perceived by Soviet Union and, of course, other communist authorities as one of the biggest threats. It was spreading the revolution. It was also giving the idea of, of this freedom, of independence, of self-governing, because that was the name of Solidarity itself. Also, the communists were also well aware of the fact that Solidarity is more than a trade union. It's actually a social movement. It represents something more than a trade union itself. And this message was received, and actually there was a person who decided to respond to this message. There was a Romanian worker, Julius Fili, who wrote back to the Solidarity leaders, and actually he wrote on an envelope, Solidarity, Gdańsk, Poland. And he then says that, he said that would be okay, that should manage to do that. Julius Filip was a worker in Romania. After the letter that he sent was actually read out loud during the Congress with his name and his location given. There was a letter where he, of course, expressed his belief that, yes, the Solidarity will also, that there will be a possibility to meet. That he's really, of course, proud of the Solidarity. And there was also the information given that there are no information about Solidarity in Romanian public sphere. The letter was read out on the 27th of September. On the 29th, as far, so within 1 or 2 days, Julius Philipp was arrested, but at first he was released after a few days. And then when the martial law was introduced in Poland on the 13th of December, he said to his wife, and you know, the introduction of the martial law meant also that almost 10,000 Solidarity leaders were taken into intern. There were 52 internment camps created all around Poland, and almost 10,000 leaders were taken. And Julius Philipp said to his wife, if the leaders of the Solidarity and the people of Solidarity are arrested in Poland, probably I will be arrested as well. And this is what happened. So on the 14th of December, he was taken by Securitate. He was tortured. He spent several years in prison. He also was taken into a prison hospital. His wife actually fought for his release, also in US embassy. He was released, I think in 1987, but I will have to check that. So at the end of the 80s, and then he was forced to leave Romania.
Am fost urmărit până în decembrie 81 și în momentul în care generalul Jaruzelski a preluat conducerea militară în Polonia în 81, pe data de 12-13 decembrie, eu am fost arestat pe 14 decembrie la ora 5 dimineața, anchetat până în 8 februarie 82 Cluj și Departamentul de Cercetări Penale a Securității Statului București, strada Rahovei 3739, printr-un proces simulacru. Ei spun că e public în acte, avem actele aici, dar de fapt a fost un proces cu o sală goală. Sunt condamnat la 8 ani de închisoare, 4 ani interdicție, degradare militară și plata cheltuielilor de judecată. Am fost dus la închisoarea Rahova, București, pe data de 16 martie 1982, pus în lanțuri, cătușe, tuns la zero și îmbrăcat în uniforma aceea de pușcăriaș și băgat în secția condamnaților la moarte.
So, 13th of December 1980, introduction of the martial law. And what introduction of the martial law meant for Poland? As I've told you, almost 10,000 leaders and members of Solidarity were taken into intern. 52 internment camps were created all over Poland. The mourning for Poles and for Polish society began with the silenced phones, because of the connection was of course cut, and the announcement that was going in a loop in Polish TV, and that was the announcement of Wojciech Jaruzelski that the martial law is being introduced, of course, to stabilize the situation in Poland and to help, of course, Poland to gain its strength. This is Warsaw. You can see the name of the cinema is Moscow. The feature on the poster is Apocalypse Now by Francis Ford Coppola, and you can see the military vehicle on the street. And this is actually the introduction of the martial law. And then, look, we are just stepping into this dark room with leaning words that are surrounding you and pushing you into the back of this militia truck. This is the original militia truck, constructed from 3 different ones, but we've managed to make it, real. And this is the militia truck that was used during the pacification of the protests. Lech Wałęsa was taken into intern. This is the photo that was made by his brother. And during that time, he makes 2 the most important announcements. Actually, one announcement and one decision. First of all, Lech Wałęsa, among a few other leaders, was offered to be the leader of the trade union created by communists, which he of course dismissed. Yeah, which he dismissed. But the most important announcement was the one that he made about the core of solidarity. He said solidarity will remain a peaceful movement, because that's what it is. Solidarity is a peaceful movement, because of course there were also voices that, you know, the communists used force. We should respond to that. I said no. It is a peaceful movement, and it has to remain this way, because it is the only way. So this is the map that was made by Jerzy Popiełuszko, who is right now one of the blessed of the Polish Catholic Church. Jerzy Popiełuszko was named the priest of solidarity. He was killed in 1984 by Secret Service, and the funeral of this brutally killed one of the leaders of solidarity was actually one of the biggest gatherings of solidarity at the time. It was 1984, it was almost 1 million people attending. This is actually the last room of our exhibition that is called The Triumph of Freedom. And this is the room where we depict all the revolutions that happened between 1989 up to 1991 and after that in Central and Eastern Europe.
W II wojnie światowej Rumunia znalazła się w strefie dominacji sowieckiej. Król Michał został zmuszony do abdykacji. Reżim stosowany wobec przeciwników nowej władzy komunistycznej w Rumunii wywołał w 1947 roku zbrojny opór partyzancki. Od 1965 roku rządzi Ceausescu.
The room that is called The Culture of Peaceful Change. The most important element of this room is actually outside, because if you look over there, you can see the monument to the fallen shipyard workers, and we actually end in the same place that we started and where everything started. As I've told you, unsuccessful strike of 1988 in spring and late summer, after the broadcasted debate between Lech Wałęsa and Alfred Miodowicz, the decision is made that both sides will sit behind the round table. There is also a strong belief that there is no other way. That if we want to solve this situation, if we want to actually change the situation in Poland, it has to be done by dialogue, and it has to be done by meeting. The most important announced decision is that on the 4th of June 1989, the first free election to Polish Senate and semi-free election to Polish lower chamber, so Polish Sejm, will happen. And the result of the election, 100% of the seats that could be taken in a Polish lower chamber in Polish Sejm, were taken by Solidarity. That was a total victory of Solidarity. And after several weeks of attempting, because still the communists had majority in Polish Sejm, but after a few weeks of attempts to create the government, finally, in September 1989, the first non-communist prime minister is elected in Poland, Tadeusz Mazowiecki.